The blizzard arrived without warning, sweeping across the mountain spine, as if winter itself had decided to erase a life. It felt fitting to Neris, whose fate had never once paused to ask her consent. Rejection without warning, banishment without warning, and now the cold, clean, merciless, and absolute. Her name was Neris Snowborn, pale as dawn ice, hair like sifted frost, eyes like a frozen river at first light. The Frostpeak wolves had always looked at her as though she were a question they feared to answer. Cursed, they whispered, too pale, too strange, marked by the moon for misfortune. They cast her out at first light with a thin cloak and a single command: be gone before sundown or be hunted. They didn't shout. Cruelty in Frostpeak was quiet, efficient, polite. They simply decided she was unworthy, and winter did the rest. So she walked. Hours passed until time meant nothing, and pain became a dull hum. Somewhere after hope ended and numbness began, she felt it. A pull, delicate as a thread, being tugged by gentle fingers. No voice, no command, just direction. A knowing, a warmth under her ribs in a world made of ice. Pathfinder, awakening. She turned away from the road carved by generations of feet and faced a cliff of ice no sane wolf would climb. Death, if she climbed. Salvation, if she trusted. Neris trusted, and the storm swallowed her shape as she ascended. She found the cave like a secret whispered by the earth, a dark mouth tucked behind cruel stone, invisible unless memory or miracle led you there. Inside waited warmth and danger, the scent of snow-wet fur, blood, a low whimper, and then shapes formed in the dimness. Wolves. 12 of them. Not ordinary wolves, enormous, white as comet tails, their breath shallow, their bodies arranged in a protective ring even in agony. The elite guard of the Northern Crown. Legends whispered at the hearth. Wolves who held their king's life between their teeth and offered him safety instead of violence. Every instinct told Neris to retreat, but instinct had never ruled her heart. Something suffering meant something she had to go to, not flee. I will help you, she whispered, if you will let me. 12 pairs of pale eyes lifted. The largest wolf's gaze, ice blue and steady, met hers. Not a snarl, a small chuff, command softened into permission. Neris worked. Her fingers trembled with cold, but her mind felt clear. A strange clarity that came not from training, but from truth. She was meant to be here. She could not explain how she knew. She simply did. She searched deeper into the cave and found gifts left by time or fate. Old wood stacked neatly, flint wrapped in oiled cloth, torn blankets, a cracked pot. She murmured thanks, to strangers long gone, or the moon who watched every wanderer. Fire resisted her shaking hands. Twice sparks died. On the third try, flame bloomed, gentle as a heartbeat. Warmth rippled across the cave and brushed frost from fur. She cleaned wounds with melted snow, tied strips of her cloak into bandages, and placed the worst injured nearest the fire. A leader does no good if he bleeds from stubbornness, she whispered to the largest wolf when she found hidden cuts beneath his fur. His ear twitched. A flicker of quiet amusement lived in his eyes. Even wounded, he watched over the others, body curled to block wind. Strength held back to shelter them. Night thickened. The storm clawed at the world outside, but inside, firelight softened sharp edges. One by one, the wolves curled around Neris, forming a nest of warmth and breath. She did not sleep. She fed the fire, checked wounds, and sang soft kitchen songs and orphan lullabies, the kind sung to children whose names the world forgot. And somewhere in those hours, she spoke her truth softly into fur and flame. If I die, I prefer it this way, giving myself to life. A quiet rumble rolled through the wolves. Disagreement. Not yet, the sound said. Not here, not her. Dawn came as a loosening of darkness rather than the gift of light. When Nerys touched the final wolf's side and felt steady breath, her knees wobbled with relief. Then the air shifted. A ripple of power traveled the stone. Fur turned to skin. Paws to hands. 12 warriors knelt in the cave, pale-haired, scar-marked, carved by war and winter. The largest stood, cloak settling around shoulders, broad as glacier ridges. His hair was white gold, his jaw shadowed, his eyes the exact blue of the storm's eye. "My name is Chaol Winterborn," he said. "Alpha King of the Northern Territories. These are my 12, and we owe you our lives." The others spoke. Praise wrapped in astonishment. Jokes softened by gratitude. Then Chaol asked quietly, "What is your name?" "Nerys," she whispered. "I was a Frostpeak until yesterday." Chaol's expression sharpened. "Tell me." She told him of public rejection, exile for being born wrong, the walk through ruinous wind, and how she had chosen compassion instead of survival. Chaol listened like mountains listened, without interruption, but with weight. "I searched 2 winters," he murmured, "for a Luna who held 3 traits: compassion first, courage without audience, and the Pathfinder gift." He named her gift aloud, the thread she had felt, ancient instinct, moon-tide destiny, not accident, calling. And then the Alpha King knelt. The 12 knelt with him. "I ask you to walk beside me," he said. "Not as perfection, as faith." She trembled. Life had turned in a single breath. "I need time," she whispered, "to believe." "Then take it," he vowed. "Walk with me. If your heart pulls away, I will release you." They traveled 3 days. She learned each warrior like constellations. Frost's laugh like firelight. Stone's quiet strength. Ash's gentle healer hands. Storm reading sky like scripture. At night, Nerys sang and men built shelters, and the king kept distance not from coldness, but reverence. He asked nothing of her but presence. He offered nothing but truth. "Frostpeak failed you," he told her by starlight. "They called rare a curse." "In my old life," she said softly, "rare things were hidden or broken." "In mine," Chaol answered, "rare things are guarded and celebrated." When they reached the glacier capital, towers carved from ice, banners like rivers of silver, wolves and humans alike bowed not to Chaol, but to the girl who had saved their king. Senna the High Healer took her hand and whispered, "The North has been waiting." Days became gentle learning. Leadership lessons, old law, winter markets, healing circles for pups and elders. Chaol never pressed for bond or title. He stood beside her as one stands beside a sunrise, patient, humbled, hopeful. One afternoon, beneath crystal trees, she confessed her fear. "I am afraid of loving what can be taken." "Be afraid," he whispered, "and love anyway." And her heart answered before her voice did, yes. On the night she accepted him, she found him before she could lose courage. He opened the door before she could knock twice, as though he'd been waiting at the threshold all along. "I will be your Luna," she told him, not as a prize, as a vow. His breath left him, not as a king, as a man who had hoped too hard, too long. The ceremony came beneath a full moon. The 12 flanked her like brothers born by choice, not blood. Children scattered petals of ice blossom. Elders hummed prayers older than the glacier stones. When Chaol marked her with the moon's blessing and she marked him in return, the pack howled. Not conquest, not hunger, but belonging. Nerys Snowborn, once rejected, became Luna Nerys of the Northern Crown. Not because fate owed her, but because she had walked into a storm and chosen compassion anyway. Years turned. Children who felt too strange, too quiet, too different, came to her seeking comfort. She held small, trembling hands and told them, "I was a rejected Omega once. I followed a thread through a storm. I found wolves who needed me. I chose to stay. Kindness is a path. Follow it, and it will lead you home. On winter nights, she and Kale walked the parapets under a moon large as joy. When wind was gentle, they would hear echoes of firelight and sleeping wolves, of a girl singing life back into the world. Destiny does not shout. It breathes. It waits. And when your courage is quiet and your hands are kind, the world opens the only door you ever needed. If this story touched you, if you felt the snow, the firelight, and the quiet strength of Neris, leave a comment. Where are you watching from? And if you'd like to walk more moonlit paths with gentle omegas and true-hearted alphas, subscribe so you never miss the next tale. Under the moon, we meet again.